Hello, Alamo. Welcome to episode 167 of your favorite daily podcast. A couple of things, a podcast about things. Today, I'm going to be answering a listener question about podcasts. So once again, shout out to everyone who's submitting questions and suggestions for the podcast. And I told you guys some episodes back that someone submitted 11 questions/suggestions, and I'm very happy. And so today I'm going to answer one of the 11. I think I already answered a previous one a day in my life. And so today I'm going to talk about 5 podcasts that I enjoy listening to. Or more like 5 podcasts I've been listening to a lot recently. Now, again, this is really unplanned. I didn't make a list or prepare anything to say about the podcast and why I like them. I just was thinking of what to talk about today, and I went to look at the form. And I saw this question and I was like, oh, okay, I can talk about this one like off the bat without thinking too much. So this is most likely going to be the top 5 podcasts I have been listening to more recently, because recency bias and whatever. So number 1 is I Said What I Said. So I'm a huge fan of FK and Jola. Although I listen to an episode of the podcast here and there once in a while. But of late, I've been actively following the podcast and listening to like every episode as it drops or as soon as I can. And I've also started listening to like some older episodes, especially the ones that they reference in like the most recent ones. So I go back and listen to those ones. And of course, Jola and FK are super hilarious. Yeah, like highly recommend. The most recent episode, in one of the more recent episodes, one I would recommend is the one called the I Can Do It episode featuring Faith and Ahmed, and I think that is episode, I can't remember what number it is now, but it's from like this month, June, so like 2 weeks ago or so. So I highly recommend that one. It was very, very interesting. And from the older ones that I have been re-listening to, I think one of my favorites, or the top 2 for me from those ones, is episode 17 of season 4, Table Talk episode, and episode 24 of season 5, the Marital Bible episode, because they talked about some things that I really enjoyed. And there were some dilemmas that are related to a question I answered previously on the podcast about being jealous of your friends or not being able to share good news or whatever. I also really found the episode with the Uber driver, episode 31 of season 3, the Cash Your Card episode, hilarious. It was so funny. And the one with the guy who is an undertaker, that's season 5 episode 7. So yeah, those are I've pretty much been listening to what I said mostly for the past couple of weeks. So that's one. Hi, it's me, reminding you to subscribe and also to send questions so that I have more things to talk about. The link to submit questions is in the show notes. Okay, let's get back into the episode. Then the second one that I've been listening to a lot is Mere Christianity by Jordan Rayner, which is basically a podcast about like how Christians what work means for us as Christians, and how our work that we do is actually important to God and important to our faith, and it's not just like, oh, it's just work, it doesn't matter. Top episodes I have listened to recently from Mere Christians are the one with Kelsey Kemp, who is a career coach. Also the one with, I'm trying to remember the name now. Yes, the one with Stephen Mansfield, the author of The Search for God and Guinness. I also like the one with Jake Reed, who is an assistant manager at Trader Joe's. The one with Deb Liu, who is CEO of Ancestry. She's a real tech babe. Of course, the one with Tim Keller. And the one with Sky Jethani, who has a book called What If Jesus Was Serious? So these are some of my more recent, I don't mean recent in order of publication, but recent in order in which I have listened to them. Episodes. Really enjoyed those ones. Think you should listen to them as well. Then another podcast that I really listen to a lot is Awkward Silences, which is a UX research podcast. Basically, talk about UX research stuff, feature a lot of UX researchers and working in different contexts, health, B2B, different ways people are doing research, applying tools or methods, all those kinds of things. It's very UX research focused. I can't think of any episodes that I was like, oh, I must bookmark this and come back to. Like, nothing's coming to my mind right now. But yeah, it's a great podcast for UX researchers or people who are interested in UX research and would like to learn more about that. Highly recommend. I actually don't listen to a lot of podcasts actively, and sometimes I do this thing where I listen to one podcast and then they just go back through multiple previous episodes and listen to them, and then I don't listen to podcasts for a while, then I pick up another podcast and like that. So I'm just going to list a bunch of other podcasts that I listen to often, I guess. I listen to Lenny's podcast a lot. The episodes are quite long, so I don't like always listen to them. Only the ones that from the topic or whomever he's interviewing, I think would be very interesting, then I listen to those ones. Recently I really enjoyed the one with what's their name now? Elizabeth Stone, the CTO of Netflix. I really like that one. And the one with Matthew Dix, who is a storyteller. He has this company called Storyworthy. I talked about it with so many people after I listened to it. Which other podcast do I listen to often? Sometimes when I see something interesting on Brain Stuff, I like it because it's just like random topics, trivia, very interesting random stuff. I recently listened to one about why the ocean is blue, or is it why the sky is blue? I don't remember, but it was very fun. It was a very fun podcast. I also like the Ezra Klein show. I like Ezra Klein's writing. I mostly used to read his writing, but occasionally I see a podcast episode from him that I enjoy and I listen to that. Also 99% Invisible. I also listen to that once in a while. Tim Keller's Sermons podcast. I listen to that often as well. I also listen to With the Perrys because that's one of my other favorite Christian podcasts. So all the podcasts I listen to are mostly around UX, my faith, and just fun, interesting stuff, I guess. So yeah, that's it for my top. However, I answered more than 5 actually. So let me see if I can remember everything I said. I said what I said. Mere Christians by I said his name, I've forgotten it. Yes, okay, so number 1, I said what I said. Number 2, Mere Christians by Jordan Rainier. Number 3, Awkward Silences podcast. Number 4, Lenny's podcast. Number 5, 99% Invisible. I'm not saying it's in order anymore, but just this is not in order of anything, just as I remember. But yeah, those are some of my podcasts. Oh, I also listened to the Money with Katie podcast. I haven't really been listening to it as much recently because many of the episodes are very like US centered, money wise. But some of it is general stuff that I find to be useful and helpful. I also listen to Seed Time Money, which is also a finance podcast, but also very Christian focused, but not all the time as well. But yeah, that's it, I guess. So yeah, those are the podcasts that I pretty much mostly listen to. And thank you for listening to my podcast. Bye. Thank you for listening to today's episode of A Couple of Things. If there was anything you found interesting or insightful, or you enjoyed the episode, please do share to someone or multiple people. Like, leave a comment, and definitely do subscribe and all the nice things. Bye.